All right. So I'm Aya Nyanika. I'm coming to you from Alokavahara Forest Monastery in our interesting world via the Zoom medium. And rather than a formal Dhamma talk, I propose that we engage in a Dhamma exploration together. And I'm willing to start with some reflections on right view and to give us a framework for the exploration, and then to offer questions to hold in your heart and to share from your heart. So I hope you're willing to show up. And now a little of the practicals. Because of the constraints of Zoom, we aren't going to have that wonderful body language awareness as much as we do in real life. And we have to be more careful of not speaking over each other. So I'm going to ask each of you to be the guardian of your own mute button. Does everyone know how to mute and unmute themselves on Zoom? Head nods? Okay. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. And because we're all able to fit on one screen, when it's the time of sharing, you can just raise a physical hand, or you can use the handy dandy raise hand button if you wish to. I'll look for both this hand and the little blue hand next to your name if you want to use either of those mechanisms. Okay, when we share, speak from the heart, share briefly, or raise a question that's arisen for you during this time. Okay, so let's check one more time. Where is our level for keenness for investigation right now? I want to see how engaged you plan to be here. All right, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so let's begin. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sangham namassami. Samaditi pubangama hoti. Right view comes first. So today's exploration will be based on the middle length discourses number 117, the Great 40. In that sutta, it becomes clear how important right view is for the development of the whole path. So starting our 8-month exploration with the teachers here at Alokavahara and your practice, right view has mundane part and a noble part. And these, particularly the mundane, is something that needs to be developed for all of the other factors to be fully developed. Otherwise, you can have speech, you can have action, you can have effort, but if it's not informed by right view, it's just speech, it's just action, it's just effort. And the same thing with, livelihood and the other factors of the path. So today we're going to really look at why right view practiced wisely is so important for us every day as we try to practice this Dhamma. And I'm going to use translations from both Bhikkhu Bodhi and Ajahn Sujato. Most of the things I'll offer here are pretty brief. You can find both of those on Sutta Central. And if anyone isn't familiar with that site, I would be happy to connect with you and point you to its wonderful resources. So here, from Majjhima Nikaya, number 117, and how does right view come first? When you understand wrong view as wrong view and right view as right view, that's your right view. So right off the bat, we need to have a sense of what kind of view is going to be forward leading. Now, we have views all the time. And we need to look at the qualities of those views to see which one is actually leading us on the path towards liberation. So luckily, the Buddha also gives us a list of right views, of which we're going to look at just a few. And please investigate this sutta on your own to go into the rest of them. So he says, there is fruit and result of good and bad actions. And he says, there is this world and the other world. And the other world, in this case, we're talking about the world that you're going to come into again in your next life. So these views get back to the questions that were dropped into the meditation. We know that things arise from conditions, cause and effect, that actions have consequences. What we do can make a difference. And if we need help seeing this, in the list of right views, the Buddha also includes, there is mother, there is father. Which, okay. What this is saying is there were conditions that got you here. And some of those conditions were outside of you. So whether or not your biological parents raised you, there were conditions for you developing in a womb and then coming into this life. And then someone raised you. And whether they did that with skill or lack of skill, that also impacts the experiences you have throughout your life. Okay, but the Buddha doesn't stop there. He also offers an explanation of the noble right view. So those aspects of there's mother and father, your actions have consequences, the world, there's this world, there's the next world. Those are parts of the mundane right view. Foundation, you need to be looking at these things to really approach the whole path. But then we go on to the noble right view. And it says, it's the wisdom, the faculty of wisdom, the power of wisdom, the awakening factor of investigation of principles. So that's the keenness of investigation that we looked at. So the awakening factor of investigation of principles and right view as a factor of the path. So this is his explanation of the noble right view. And see how that keenness of investigation, I saw lots of nice hands up here, that comes out in right view. Right view is open to seeing things as they are. Showing up with curiosity. Applying discernment to those very views you're holding. And seeing how that view is informing your practice. So we'll get back to how you see the world, how you hold your views, how you respond from your views matters. And this will be part of what we're going to explore today. So back on that, the mundane right view. the consequences don't stop with the death of this body unless we're fully liberated, which we're aiming for. Now he says, there is this world and the other world. And that's saying that right view includes the understanding of rebirth. So I said I wasn't going to do Buddhism light here. So it includes the concept of rebirth, that the consequences of your choices, my choices, our choices, and our actions, they extend into future lives. And one of the things I often use is knowing that my view, what's in my mind, what's in my heart at the time of death matters. It's one of the conditions, not the only, but one of the conditions for what this next life is going to be. So I pop in the question, if I were to die right now, what rebirth would I be informing? And it sobers me up pretty quick if I'm in some negative mind state, because that's not where I want to, abide in the next life. It's not going to be the best means for practicing. Okay. So these extracts are going to be the basis for our Dhamma exploration. From Majjhima Nikaya 117, we get right view of volitional action having consequences precedes the rest of the path. It has consequences for our path development and consequences for our daily life now and far into the future. So let's open this up for exploration together. And I'll give 2 questions and we can just see what emerges. How has this sense of being conditioned impact how you meet this moment, how you meet this life? How has this sense of being conditioned impacted you? And how does the view that what you do matters, has consequences, impact how you act in this moment, in this life? So please take a moment, consider it in your heart, raise a hand, and we'll take turns unmuting ourselves to share and explore this. Okay, Ryan, do you have something you'd like to start us off with? Is that a hand? No, okay. Who would like to? All right, wonderful. Sanghamita, please start us off.
So I'm thinking of the second question, knowing that our actions have consequences. And just the issue of sometimes like knowing that very clearly, but then just not knowing how to be skillful, especially in an interpersonal situation, and not wanting to hurt feelings of others, but especially when the other has, they have their own conditions, so they can't hear things very clearly. and so, yeah, so sometimes you feel in a bind as to how to proceed. Yeah, so I haven't got any further than that.
All right, I'm going to respond to that briefly, and then we'll see if others have response to what Sanghamita is saying. So what I'm hearing that the intention is there. The intention is there to show up, to have your view be aligned with the path, and you encounter in real life real people with their real conditioning. And one of the things that I do as I start to feel the tension, or I start to feel the constriction, because I think it should be different, is I check my view. Okay, it's like this now. And if my view is aligned with reality, it's like this now. And the other thing I do is I remind myself, this is a conditioned being. The person I'm interacting with, this is a conditioned being. They have a mother and a father from birth. They were raised. They raised themselves. They continued the practice, and they got to this moment like this. Me too. Me too. So we've got this wonderful opportunity to come together. And another part of right view, this exploration, I'm just going to put a plug in here for Bhikkhu Bodhi's book, Social and Communal Harmony. Let's see. He's got excerpts from the suttas, and the first section is on right understanding, so right view. It's another translation of right view. And in that chapter, he goes into what Sanghamitta is saying about being able to see what is wholesome, what is unwholesome. So as we apply our right view, one of the things we're checking is the way that I'm showing up wholesome, or is it unwholesome? Is it leading to good states, or is it leading to not so good states? And we just use that metric. This to me is, I was a scientist before I came to monastic life. I still am. This to me is simply data collection. Right now, how I'm behaving is wholesome, and it's leading to good things. Right now, I'm not really hitting that wholesome mark, and I'm seeing this happen. So I'm keen to investigate how to change my habits. So I hope that helps, and I'd love to hear. It looks like, let's see, Karen, would you like to pipe in?
Sure. I'll add to Sanghamitta because I've had that experience in the past of how to handle different personalities and different people and interactions. And I found what helped for me in my practice is to set intentions in the very beginning. And so one was similar to Sanghamitta's, was I wanted to add more love into the world than hate. So that was like cultivating in the back of my mind to add more love into the world than hate. And then my second intention for the practice was to create my own happiness in a loving kindness way. Knowing that I'm on this path, and this path represents wholesomeness. And when I'm dealing with different people and different personalities, how am I going to have that right action and that right speech by having self-compassion for myself and my own practice? So creating my happiness, but in a loving kindness type of way, whether it's through action or speech. And it's not easy to do, but I believe the whole practice is about cultivating a different mindset. And when you can cultivate that positivity and that wholesome mindset, it just has ripple effects. And I think that's part of the problem is, is we tend to think negative right away and make those perceptions out there rather than trying to, think positively and understanding, like you just said, that people are conditioned differently in this world. We're all conditioned differently, and it's a conditioned human being coming at me, that's talking to me. And if we can kind of cultivate that in our mindset, I think that's very helpful as well.
Yeah. Wonderful, Karen. Thank you. What I'm hearing is you're bringing, metta, but I think the Brahma Viharas, is that correct? You're bringing that up in your intention, and you're applying it to right effort. So your right view, your intention, your right intention is also informing your right effort. And what I would suggest is, here's a tool that I've used. I got this from Ayatollah, who was my primary teacher when I was coming into monastic life, was check, are you seeing, so your view, are you seeing with the Brahma-Viharas? Are you seeing the world out of the lens of the Brahma-Viharas? Are you receiving? Are you receiving the world and through your senses? And then as you process it, are you receiving it through the lens of the Brahma-Viharas? Are you holding it? Is the way that you are holding it, because where does awakening happen? It happens in this fathom long body. It happens right here. So are you holding it? Are you holding your experience with the Brahma-Viharas?
Yeah, that's
And
something.
then, only then, we all do, then how do you respond? Then, after you've gone through that, am I responding from my right view from the Brahma-Viharas?
Yeah, thank you. I needed to hear that.
What does that spark in others? Barbara, we'd love to hear from you. Barbara, unmute, and then we'll go to Judy after that.
Okay. I think already what I've heard is a more advanced practice, and I kind of would like to introduce by saying that much of my life I felt invisible and was unconscious. So I don't know at what point I became aware that I was responsible for my happiness and my well-being, that it wasn't going to be something that came other to me, but would be born of me. And I am still working on that. Who I am and how I am doesn't only matter to me, but does impact others in a more significant way than I would ever have than I would have ever understood. I've spent a lot of time at this phase in some genuine humility. At the same time, I'm realizing that I also need to take responsibility for my way of being with others in a way that has intention and genuine concern and care. But parallel with that is I am a profoundly reactive person. So I wish that weren't true, but it is true. And again, part of my conditioning. So sometimes I do and say things, maybe not overtly harmful, but have a harmful twist in the midst of genuine caring. So I'm finding this practice is actually increasingly subtle in a way that and is an invitation to go deeper and more conscious. But I don't always act out of that. So I think that's my thought for this moment.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, I'm hearing that there is the responsibility for your happiness and for your impact on the world, on your relationships, and also on what's going on as you meet the world,
Yes.
the reactivity that comes up.
Yes.
So you're meeting it,
Mm-hmm.
and you're setting your intention, and that'll happen over and over and over again.
Yes.
From the Metta Sutta, not holding to fixed views.
Yes.
You're showing up again and again and again, and that's what the Buddha says. You're conditioned,
Mm-hmm.
and they're conditioned, and then you hold that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where your waking up is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you very much. You've pointed to some deep practices for us in our daily life.
Mm-hmm.
Judy, would you like to come from your heart?
Well, I was just going to say that, we try to be, well, I try to be skillful and have wholesome intentions, but I need to be truthful to that, because sometimes I can fool myself thinking that my intention is wholesome, but really there's an edge of unwholesomeness, whether that may be an agenda or a wanting, like a wanting an outcome, right? So my intention may not be truly wholesome. So, I want to live with no regrets, because I know regrets cause suffering. So that's the whole thing around conditions. And because of this occurs, but always, not always struggling to be honest, but that can arise, the not being truly truthful to my intention, having my own agenda and wanting an outcome, and
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing from Judy is that sometimes our kilesas, our delusion in particular, gets in the way of our deeper intention for being on the path. We got work to do. And so that filter, that habitual filter that says, oh, it's really okay if I'm a little snarky right now because, well, they'll understand it as humor. Something I'm just making an example of.
Right.
But when we look at it, as Barbara was also saying, at those subtler and subtler levels, and we see how it's informing us, it's like that view of it's okay to just, run away with this a little bit. It's not that far off. Sure, that voice has been there for a long time. And it's our conditioned way of responding, to make these excuses, to make it seem okay to do what we think we want, what we think is going to lead to our happiness. And it's as we explore what is the happiness that we're really aiming for, this worldly happiness, this little zing, I said something clever, zing, oh gosh, doesn't that feel good, versus by relating to this person in the compassionate way that is my deeper intention, I am actually raising my happiness level. And when I go back to the cushion, I've informed this space for a far better experience as I go down the path. Otherwise, that regret that Judy is mentioning is right there. And remorse can be a wholesome thing to help us see, but regret is not a place to live. Regret is not, because it's going to lead to becoming. It's a conditioning. So it should be your little wake up message. Oh, I gotta examine my view, examine my intentions, examine my effort, all of the factors, and make the subtle shifts just to experiment to see what might be more wholesome. Did I capture that, Judy? Okay, great.
yes,
Who else?
very well.
Who else would like? Thank you. Okay, Richard, please unmute.
Yeah, what I've noticed, and it just sort of came to me in a flash just a little while ago, is that whenever I've got my, I feel small and unhappy, miserable, my attention is only on myself. Like it's just totally focused on poor me. This is, things shouldn't be like this. It's not fair. And then when I'm happy, I have no attention on myself. My attention is out there. And, I really appreciate just being alive, being with human beings, being with animals, being with nature. I'm not separate from that.
Mhm.
And it's just a wonderful, I don't have the skill all the time to be selfless, but I just notice that when I'm contracted, my attention is all on myself, and I
Right.
do have much more awareness and mindfulness now to be able to sit with that for a while and be with that and be relatively skillful in my actions and speech, etc., and views, and ride it out until I become selfless again.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's my
Yeah.
contribution.
I understand.
Okay. Yes, thank you, Richard. Barbara, could you also put your mute on
Oh, I'm
so
sorry.
that we're not getting background noise? Yeah, thank you. Richard, you're bringing up something really wonderful as far as that. Oh, no, I'm side to the view, how your view is getting caught in self. And how when you're really promoting happiness, when the consequences of the way you're showing up are actually the consequences of happiness, that sense of self falls away. Oh, and that's another part of right view. You'll see that in other suttas where we look at the 3 characteristics. And when we're in right view, that not self, the not conditioning a conditioned being into being is part of where we're holding right view. So right view includes the seeing of not self, and more importantly, as you're saying, the being of not self. That you're relating to the world, and you're going to actually find that your factors of enlightenment, and particularly happiness, is going, your level, you're going to be up here at the top of the screen when your view is not conditioning a self. So I thank you for bringing that into this exploration. Okay, we've probably got time for a couple more, and repeats are also welcome. I'll go back to the questions to see if they bring up anything. How has this sense of being conditioned, that you are conditioned, how does that impact how you meet this moment? How does the view that what you do matters, has consequences, impact how you act in this moment, how you live your life? Okay, I'm going to bring up something that that these times of pandemic, where we're considering, a virus that, if we catch it, we could be just go through a small episode of something somewhat like other illnesses we've had, or it could put us on a ventilator. Which brings us to choices that we make for our medical care. So I'm going in for something that because I've changed from my residence to a loka vihara, I needed to rethink what my end of life care might be. And I need to let the community members I'm living with know what that might be. So I began to rethink, what do I want to put down about the measures for my extending my life or not? And earlier in my life, I was coming from the practice of Christianity and the sense of going to heaven as my next experience. Even as a junior high, I had some issues with that. I personally had asked the priest, okay, so is God going to change my personality? Because there's nothing I want to do forever. So I had some sense of this eternity, and if anyone is holding that, let that be your practice. But I noticed that when I held that view, that a life terminating earlier was fine. I would be going to heaven. And when I looked at a view that there isn't anything after this life, also, the life ending earlier, not so much of a problem, because, there's a lot of suffering in being in a human body. So that sense of, okay, that's done with, wasn't necessarily something I was terribly concerned with. But when I look at it from the lens of rebirth, I am in a difficult world and a difficult body, but I've met the teaching and I'm practicing with it. And this is where I've begun to understand that teaching of, this is a precious human life. So this is how my view has shifted. And I still have to think about, as was brought up, the impact of my choices, not just on myself, but on my community, on the world. So I make those end of life choices informed by the preciousness of this life and what does it mean to practice. And I'm curious if others have met this or other really meaningful decisions differently when they look at it through the lens of these right views. My actions have consequences. There is a life, a rebirth after this life, and what I do in this one matters.
I just would like to say, I thought
Barbara?
I'd like to say that I thought Corey had raised his hand earlier and we missed it. So I just want to offer an invitation if that is true, Corey.
Corey, please, is that so?
Barbara, thank you for that. I just will clarify that, yes, I look like a boy today with my ball cap on, but I'm actually a girl, a woman, 58-year-old woman.
Wonderful.
I just, I think I appreciate what you said, because my mom is in long-term care and having to deal with her end of life care and making those decisions. And I've reflected a lot on that process. And and my own end of life care, and making it clear to my son and my wife that how I want that to be. And COVID is certainly sped up that process for everybody to talk about, and I'm grateful for that.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you. So we're getting a chance to meet these very important things, aging, sickness, death, and we're getting a chance to really look at our view. And as Richard was saying, that happiness level, when we are working with even these things from right view, and that sense of self drops away, you can deal with all of these things that are arising in the world, and those factors of enlightenment can help carry you through it. So, Karen, would you like to bring something forward, please?
Yeah, I can share an experience that I've had, I think, with Right View and my relationship with my mom. Because growing up on the East Coast, it was kind of a lot of sarcasm is what I grew up with around, and not very nurturing childhood. So it took a good 7 years to finally have a relationship, a warm-hearted relationship with my mom. But I realized before, when I wasn't on the path, it was like we would get into arguments on the phone because we would dish sarcasm out at each other. And then as I got onto the path and I realized, like, this is not who I am. I'm not sarcastic anymore. I'm more of a loving kindness. It turned into, I kind of would hang up the phone on her still, because my path wasn't, I was still growing with the path. So I would hang up on the phone with her. And then that turned into pointing of the finger, like, well, this is your fault. You hung up the phone on me. And so I realized, like, well, that's not working. And then as my practice grew in the view, I realized, okay, I'm just going to get quiet on the phone when she says something that's, inappropriate or kind of mean-spirited. And that really helped my practice with patients, and it also helped with my mom, because it turned the conversation inwards, and she realized for herself that she kind of said something that's kind of hurtful. And so over time, I've learned where my trigger is with my mom, which is the pointing of the finger. And so now I know when she points the finger that that's just her condition of who she is, and I can kind of handle the experience. But it really started with Right View and the practice, and knowing, like, to me, sarcasm is very negative, and I'm more of a, the path is more of a wholesome path for me. So, Right View really helped change the relationship that I have with my mom now. And like I said, it's been a good 7 years in the making, but I finally can say that I have a wonderful relationship with her. But that's what this practice
And
that's what I love about it.
And this is a really good spot for us to wrap up. Thank you very much, Karen, because what Karen is saying, and we got a little bit from Corey also, is our practice matters. The way that we're showing up to our relationships is changing. And it's changing in a way that's wholesome. In fits and starts as we experiment. That's why I say this is a Dhamma exploration. And we're getting a chance to share it together for this time period, but you're going to carry this exploration, as you already have, into your life. And that's the takeaway message that I want you to have. Your practice matters. And as you show up in it, it is having an impact on you, on your next life, and on the world around you, as Barbara was saying. So we are at the top of the hour, and there's something else going on here in just a few minutes, so I'm going to have to close up now. I just want to leave you with a blessing chant. Also, that you're not alone, that it's lovely in Buddhism that we also have the sense of devas who are here, got our back. So May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you. By the power of all the Buddhas, may you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you. By the power of all the Dhamma, may you ever be well. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you. By the power of all the Sangha, may you ever be well. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, everyone.